Alrighty, I just wanted to cover this quick because this is something that I see quite a bit, and it's a misunderstanding of the dose makes the poison, which is a fundamental toxicology concept. Now, this is from somebody that disagrees with dietitian Abby Sharp. Go follow Abby, she's excellent. And one of the arguments is that the dose does not make the poison, accumulation does. Let's discuss why this actually shows a misunderstanding of just basic toxicology. All right, so the first thing is we need to understand the difference between acute toxicity and chronic toxicity. So acute toxicity is a life-threatening one-time dose. So when we're talking about food, we're typically not talking about acute toxicity. When people are saying ingredients in foods are toxic, this is not what they would be referring to, because typically they're talking about over time, which is chronic, and which includes accumulation. So let's talk about chronic toxicity. All right, so when we talk about chronic toxicity, it is the acceptable daily intake of minimal concern. So obviously these doses are going to be lower than the acute toxicity for the same substances, because remember, acute is a one-time dose that is toxic. So in saying the dose makes the poison, when we're talking about chronic toxicity, that is taking into account accumulation, because these numbers are based on how it accumulates, whether it accumulates, and the doses in which it would accumulate. So in saying the dose makes the poison and talking about chronic toxicity, which again we're talking about when we're talking about food ingredients, because we're talking about consuming them over time, these values are taking accumulation into account. So to disagree with the dose makes the poison and then say that it's accumulation that matters makes absolutely no sense, because the dose makes the poison takes accumulation into account. This misunderstanding is where a lot of these toxic chemicals and toxic ingredient claims come from. They're coming from people that don't understand just basic toxicology concepts, and they're claiming things are toxic when that is not the case. This is why I always say when somebody is making a claim that something is toxic, they better also be providing the dose and, of course, evidence that it is toxic at the dose they're claiming is toxic. I'll link where to find these graphics in the caption, and it also goes along with a great explanation to just learn a little bit more about some basic toxicology information.